Japan is doing something you won't see anywhere else in the aviation industry. While most airlines fly shorter domestic routes with aircraft like the 737 and A320, Japanese airlines have historically stuck with larger aircraft, even on some of the shortest flights. You see, widebodies make up a whopping 48% of ANA's domestic capacity, and nearly half of JAL's. Interestingly enough, there are many factors special to the region that cause airlines to adopt this domestic strategy. And with intra-Japan travel making up 83% of ANA's total seat capacity, domestic revenue is one of the most crucial components to its success. In fact, Boeing went as far as developing a custom 747 and 787 variants just for ANA and JAL. Being such a densely packed country, Japan has many strict nighttime curfews at several of its airports. For example, Fukuoka's airport has a curfew from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and Osaka's Itami airport's curfew starts even an hour earlier. These limited operating hours and constrained airports severely restrict available slots, so airlines had to carry more passengers per flight to keep up with the country's massive domestic travel demand. However, while Japan needed a big aircraft with shorter range, back in the 1970s, all of the large aircraft were primarily designed for long-haul travel. So the two airlines partnered up with Boeing and got creative. Hey Boeing, we need a big plane that is cheap and doesn't need to take 3 laps around the planet to be profitable. So Boeing made the custom 747-100 short range just for Japan. You see, Japan is a huge market and the carriers were already very loyal to Boeing, so the manufacturer deemed that it was worth the investment to build an aircraft that the two airlines would vastly benefit from. At the time, the 747-100 was the industry standard for high-capacity, long-haul flights, with fuel tanks designed for fewer stopovers and quicker journeys. For the SR variant, Boeing cut down the range and implemented smaller fuel tanks to increase capacity. Alongside these two operational changes, Boeing also strengthened the airframe to support more frequent takeoffs and landings. This allowed the aircraft to be optimal for short, high-frequency flights, which were necessary for Japanese travel. JAL and ANA were quick to order and initially used their 747 SRs quite heavily, but as these planes got older, the two airlines started to shift more towards modern twin-engine jets, starting with the 767s and 777s. Most notably, these airlines were only among a few airlines to order the standard 777-300 variant. You see, the -300ER significantly succeeded the -300 in orders, as the longer range was pretty much the necessity for airlines. So while the rest of the industry used their 777s to expand their global networks, ANA and JAL only had one goal: get as many passengers as possible from busy city to busy city in one short flight. In order to do that, these airlines adopted a 10 abreast configuration, which was fairly uncommon with the 777 at the time. They also focused more on economy cabins, investing less in long-haul premium products like business and first class. This allowed them to pack over 500 passengers per aircraft. However, starting in the early 2010s, a new wave of modern jets started to emerge. From its introduction into service with ANA, the 787-8 was used on many lower-demand domestic flights alongside that similarly sized 767. Now, the 787 not only offered better comfort to passengers, but also was much quieter, thus being a better option to fly into airports literally located right in the middle of cities. Seeing the success of the 787, Boeing wanted to make another variant just for Japan. So in 2004, Boeing began the 787-3 project, an aircraft similar in size to the 787-8, but with significantly less range. It featured winglets for better airport compatibility and optimized to support frequent takeoffs and landings. Hey guys, I'm super excited to give you guys this special variant. It's gonna be so cool. About that. As the 787-8 would be available sooner and offered better flexibility, both ANA and JAL canceled their -3 orders, opting for the -8 variant instead. And ultimately in 2010, the 787-3 project was abandoned entirely. Now, a few years later, the 787-9 entered service with ANA. The airline configured the aircraft to fit an extra 100 passengers than the typical 250 to 290 seat layout of the -9. These 787-9s served many trunk routes, which are high traffic routes between two major cities. Now, up to this point, both ANA and JAL had primarily chosen Boeing when it came to widebodies. But in 2013, another aircraft manufacturer decided to step into the Japanese widebody market.
Bonjour mes amis japonais, j'ai exactement ce dont vous avez besoin. Oubliez le 797-10. J'ai un meilleur avion, l'A350. Un avion à la pointe de la technologie. Tout le monde l'achète et en plus de votre achat, je vous donnerai un croissant.
While the 787-10 was only a few years away from entering service, it would still take a while for the airlines to actually get their hands on the aircraft. JAL didn't want to wait until then, so they decided to order the A350-900. ANA, on the other hand, didn't order any A350s and instead opted for the 787-10. I guess they didn't like croissant. Similar to their previous widebodies, Japan Airlines partnered with Airbus to get a low-weight variant for their A350s to get better short-haul performance. Today, they dominate JAL's high-capacity domestic trunk routes alongside the 787-8 and the 767-300. Now, capacity isn't the only advantage of these larger planes, because in Japan, airlines don't just have to compete with each other. There's a whole other industry 30,000 feet below that these airlines have to worry about. You see, in the mid-20th century, an interesting project emerged. Hey, Mr. Shima, you want to go grab some sushi? What was that? Do you think we should create a high-speed train that will revolutionize Japanese travel forever? What? And after a few years of development, the Shinkansen emerged. You see, in Japan, high-speed trains, regular trains, and overnight buses are commonly used as an alternative to air travel. Therefore, airlines needed to get really competitive to have an advantage, whether it be through price, comfort, or time. So how did JAL and ANA do that? First of all, the airlines needed to stay timely. While planes may fly faster, going through security, boarding, and even delays, of course, can add a lot of time. Fortunately, this is not a problem for the two airlines, as passengers are only recommended to pass through security 30 minutes before their flight, and boarding starts only 10 minutes before scheduled departure time. But how could this possibly be when a 737 flight in the US starts boarding at a good 45 minutes before departure and usually results in a 20-minute delay? Now, dual jet bridges come in real handy here. While two may be more expensive than one, or even none, the faster turnaround times they enable result in a higher slot capacity and therefore increase long-term profits. Now, the airlines have also developed a very well-crafted boarding system based on seat location rather than how much you pay. Furthermore, the airlines make good use of multiple automated boarding pass gates, so the ground staff can focus quickly on sorting out issues rather than scanning boarding passes all day long. Now, these tactics allow airlines to board 514 passengers in as little as 9 minutes. Looking into the cabins of the planes, you might think that the two Japanese airlines just chose the cheapest seat they could, given that flights are short and demand is obviously high. However, the reality is actually the exact opposite. Both ANA and JAL chose high-quality seats, including IFE. And while in the past airlines didn't offer many premium cabins on their domestic flights, as the aviation industry evolved, both started investing more in premium classes, with some of JAL's domestic A350-900s featuring 94 business class or Class J seats and 12 first-class seats. Now, ANA and JAL aren't the only Japanese airlines to use the advantage of wide-bodies on their domestic flights. Airdo, which is based in Sapporo and partially owned by ANA, has a small fleet of 4 767-300 ERs. Now, the aircraft were initially used to fly more internationally with ANA, but are actually now operating multiple times a day between Tokyo and Japan's northernmost island of Hokkaido. The 767s used to fly with ANA, but in the early 2000s, the airline decided they didn't need the aircraft anymore, so they simply transferred the planes to Airdo. This results in the aircrafts having very low unit cost, allowing Airdo to offer dirt cheap fares. This price point appeals to travelers who don't have much money to spend on transportation but need to go somewhere fast. In the end, air travel only lost to trains and buses in a few short-haul markets, and while both ANA and JAL still use narrowbodies for several domestic flights, their widebodies allowed the airlines to meet Japan's huge domestic travel demand while still working around curfews and competing with other forms of travel. And I bet passengers love it. I would honestly take a widebody over a narrowbody any day. So let us know, do you want to see your favorite airlines incorporate this strategy? Drop your answer in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you right back here for the next video.